Captain Ryland Jace sat in the cockpit of his small exploration ship, watching the stars streak by as he traveled toward Zythera, a jungle world at the edge of human space. For most humans, this planet was a warning, a place where no colony had ever survived. It was full of enormous predators, poisonous plants, and strange weather that could shift in minutes. But for Ryland, it was another challenge. Another test of skill. Humans had always faced danger and survived through courage and cleverness. And Ryland was no ordinary human, he was a hunter. One who respected life, yet could survive in worlds most would fear to enter. Zythera's jungles were legendary. The trees grew taller than the largest skyscrapers on Earth, their leaves forming a dense canopy that blocked out the sun. Thick vines twisted like serpents, and the ground was covered in thick moss and strange flowers that glowed faintly at night. It was said that the creatures there were unlike anything seen elsewhere. Giant insects with crystal wings, herbivores as big as small buildings, and predators that hunted in silence, leaving no trace of their victims. Humans had sent several expeditions before, but most had failed, either captured by the creatures or lost to the jungle itself. Ryland's mission was different. He was not just exploring or hunting for sport. He was studying a rare creature known as the shadow scale. Rumors said it could blend perfectly into its surroundings, making it almost invisible. Some believed it could even predict movements, disappearing before hunters could act. Ryland knew the task would test all his skills, but he welcomed it. The ship's sensors beeped softly, signaling entry into Zythera's atmosphere. Outside the cockpit window, dense green clouds of mist covered the planet's surface. Lightning flashed faintly in the distance, and the wind howled through unseen canyons. Ryland checked his equipment carefully. He had his plasma rifle, a series of tracking drones, and a supply of energy cells. But most importantly, he had his mind. His skill in observation, strategy, and patience had kept him alive in worlds far more dangerous than this. As he landed on a rocky plateau overlooking the jungle, Ryland felt the first true excitement of the hunt. The air was thick and humid, carrying scents he had never encountered before. Strange calls echoed in the distance, some like bird songs, others like deep growls. He adjusted his visor and scanned the area. Motion sensors detected nothing significant, nothing large, at least, but he knew better. In a world like this, the hunter must wait and watch. Rushing would only bring danger. Hours passed as Ryland moved carefully through the undergrowth. His boots sank slightly into the soft moss, and he used a small energy blade to cut through thick vines. Every sound was studied, every shadow watched. Then, he saw a faint ripple in the air, a distortion that didn't match the wind or heat. He crouched, observing the ground. Tiny footprints, almost invisible, led deeper into the jungle. They were not like any animal he had tracked before. Ryland smiled. "This is going to be interesting," he whispered. He followed the trail slowly, carefully. Every few steps, he paused to study the surroundings. He noticed broken branches where a creature had pushed through, and the faint scent of something wild, like a mixture of smoke and wet earth. Hours turned into a day, and the sun disappeared behind the thick canopy, leaving only a faint greenish glow. Unseen by Ryland, eyes watched him from above. Perched on a high branch, an alien figure studied him. Celira, an elite huntress of the Vyari species, observed silently. The Vyari were renowned across several systems for their hunting skills, speed, and strength. They were sleek, agile, and nearly perfect hunters. Celira had been sent to Zythera by her people, not to interfere with humans, but to study the creature herself. Yet this human moved differently. He was cautious, careful, and yet daring. He didn't rely on technology alone. He observed, learned, and adapted. That was unusual for a human, and unusual for any hunter in her experience. Ryland moved closer to the Shadowscale's last known location. The forest grew darker, the air heavier. Strange plants brushed against him, releasing spores that made vision blur for a moment. He ignored it, focusing on the subtle movements in the shadows. Then, he saw a flicker, a shimmer like water in the air. The shadow scale was near. He stayed downwind, keeping low. The creature appeared suddenly, its body sleek and dark, blending perfectly with the jungle around it. Its eyes were reflective, glowing faintly. It moved with quiet grace, stalking a massive insect nearby. Ryland studied it, noting every detail: how it moved, how it breathed, how it observed its prey. He did not fire. He did not rush. He knew the shadow scale was not mindless. It was clever, patient, and dangerous. Hours passed as he watched. Night came fully, and the jungle transformed. Bioluminescent plants lit the area with soft blues and greens. Strange calls echoed like music, and growls combined. Suddenly, the ground shook slightly. A herd of herbivores, enormous creatures with armor-like skin, stampeded through the jungle. The shadow scale vanished, disappearing into the thick foliage. Ryland remained calm. He was used to this. Patience was a hunter's greatest weapon. He set small, quiet sensors to track movement and rested for a few hours, conserving energy while keeping alert. He knew he was being observed. He could feel a presence in the trees, moving silently. Celira remained hidden, fascinated. The human did not panic. He did not try to fight or flee. He adapted. She had expected fear, clumsiness, or recklessness. Instead, he moved like a shadow himself, part of the jungle, yet fully aware of everything around him. It was rare to see such skill, even among the Vyari elite. The next morning, Ryland followed a new trail. The shadow scale had left signs, tiny scratches on tree bark, faint claw marks in the mud. He moved slowly, thinking several steps ahead. He set small traps, not to hurt the creature, but to observe and record its behavior. His knowledge of other worlds, other predators, gave him ideas that no other hunter might consider. As he tracked, he found evidence of something else, another presence. He paused, scanning carefully. There was movement above him, nearly invisible. He didn't panic. He smiled slightly. Humans had survived by understanding danger, not fearing it blindly. Celira leapt down silently from the branches, landing behind a bush. She wanted to see how this human reacted. If he panicked, if he faltered, she would step in. But he didn't. He continued tracking, almost ignoring the signs of her presence. That was remarkable. By mid-afternoon, Ryland spotted the shadow scale again. It was larger than he expected, sleek and powerful. He studied its muscles, its movements, its breathing. He realized he could not catch it by force. He would need to outsmart it, earn its trust, and find a way to guide it safely for observation. That was the human way: intelligence over brute strength. Celira spoke softly, almost to herself. Impressed. A hunter like that, she murmured, watching the human. Deserves respect. Ryland never knew her words. He was focused, patient, and determined. But somewhere above him, hidden in the trees, an alien huntress had already begun to see humans differently. She had seen a kind of skill, courage, and intelligence that her people rarely acknowledged in other species. As the day ended, Ryland set a safe perimeter around his observation site. He made small notes in his datapad, recording everything: creature behavior, weather conditions, plant interactions, and the subtle movements of the jungle. He slept lightly, always aware of the jungle's sounds, always ready for the unexpected. Night came again. The shadow scale emerged closer than before. Studying him, it did not attack, and it did not flee. Ryland remained still, breathing slowly, watching its eyes reflect the faint light of bioluminescent plants. This was more than hunting. It was understanding. A silent conversation between species. High above, Celira continued to watch. She realized that this human's greatest strength was not his weapons or equipment, but his mind and spirit. He had patience, courage, and empathy, qualities that her species valued but rarely saw fully in others. And so, on the dangerous, mysterious planet of Zethera, a hunter and a creature began a silent game of observation and understanding. And in the shadows, an alien huntress began to admire a human in a way she had never expected. The first part of the journey was over. The challenge had begun. The hunt would continue tomorrow. And Rylan, human and hunter, had already proven something important: that courage, intelligence, and patience could survive even in the wildest, deadliest worlds. The sun rose slowly over Zethera, filtering green and gold light through the dense jungle canopy. Captain Rylan Jace had already been awake for hours, checking his equipment and reviewing the movements of the shadow scale he had been tracking. The creature had vanished during the night, leaving only faint traces near a stream. He crouched beside the water, studying the prints. They were fresh. The shadow scale was close, but careful, aware of his presence. Rylan smiled. "Patience," he whispered. "Always patience." He knew the jungle would test him every step of the way. It was not enough to be strong or brave. On Zethera, intelligence and observation were as important as skill with weapons. He began to follow the trail, moving silently over moss-covered roots and stones. Every sound of snapping branches or rustling leaves could mean the creature was near or that a predator watched him. High above in the branches, Celira observed him again. She had not moved closer since the night before. The human was fascinating. Unlike most humans or other species she had seen, he did not rely on brute force. He was careful, alert, and clever. Every step he took showed thought. Every action showed patience. Celira had been trained to hunt, to strike first, and to dominate. But this human was different. He adapted. He thought. He survived. Suddenly, the ground trembled slightly. Rylan froze. The tremor grew stronger. He scanned the jungle carefully, hand on his plasma rifle, but did not fire. Then came the sound: thick, heavy footsteps, moving through the jungle with deliberate force. From the shadows, a massive herbivore, taller than a building on Earth, burst into view. Its armored plates gleamed under the filtered sunlight, and its eyes seemed intelligent, aware. Rylan crouched low, observing its behavior. The creature was not aggressive yet. It was moving toward a cliff edge, likely following a scent or marking territory. Rylan saw his chance. He could study it safely without provoking it. He adjusted a small drone and released it into the air, capturing detailed images of the massive beast. Celira tilted her head, impressed. The human did not attack. He did not try to capture. He observed. That was rare. Among the Vayari, most hunters would have seen the creature as a challenge, a target to dominate. But Rylan, he understood something about the jungle that she had not expected humans to understand. Later, as the sun climbed higher, Rylan's trail led him to a hidden valley, a natural amphitheater surrounded by towering trees. Bioluminescent plants glowed faintly, and small flying creatures flitted among them. The shadow scale had been here recently. Its prints were everywhere, subtle marks in the mud and small scratches on trees. Rylan moved carefully, studying every detail. Suddenly, movement flickered in the corner of his vision. A figure dropped silently from the trees. Rylan spun. Plasma rifle raised but lowered it quickly when he saw the alien standing there. Celira, her lithe body covered in sleek armor-like skin, regarded him calmly. Her eyes, dark and intelligent, studied him carefully. "You are different," she said in a soft voice. "Most humans panic or rush. You observe, wait, adapt." Rylan lowered his weapon fully but remained alert. "Who are you?" he asked. "Another hunter?" Celira smiled faintly. "I am Celira, Vayari, and yes, I hunt." She stepped closer, showing no hostility. "I have watched you. Your methods, they are unusual. Clever, patient, brave." Rylan nodded slowly. I respect the creatures I track. I don't see them only as prey. I study them, learn from them, survive with them. That is the way I hunt. Salira's expression changed slightly. Then you may be worthy of a challenge. Her words carried weight. In Vyari culture, a challenge was not just a test, it was a trial that could change the respect of her peers. I propose a hunting trial, she said. A test of skill, intelligence, and adaptability. You survive it, and you earn my respect. Fail, and you will leave this valley humiliated, or worse. Rylan considered her proposal carefully. Accepting was dangerous. The trial was in a floating mountain arena, home to some of the deadliest creatures of Scythera. But he did not hesitate. I accept, he said simply. I don't seek glory. But I don't run from a challenge either. Salira's eyes narrowed slightly, studying him more closely. Good. You may yet surprise us all. She moved to a shimmering portal, a gateway powered by alien technology. Follow me. Within moments, Rylan found himself standing on a vast floating mountain range, surrounded by clouds and mist. Platforms of rock hovered in the air, connected by narrow bridges of living vines and solid stone. Strange creatures roamed the area, some small and fast, others enormous and deadly. It was a hunter's paradise and a death trap for the unprepared. Salira explained the rules. You must reach the highest platform, she said. Along the way, you will face predators, natural hazards, and puzzles. You may use your intelligence and resources, but you must rely on skill and observation. No unnecessary killing. Those who misuse their power fail the trial. Rylan listened carefully. His mind began to map the arena, noting possible routes, dangers, and opportunities. He set a small tracking device on his wrist and began moving forward, slowly and deliberately. Every step mattered. One wrong move, and a predator could kill him. The first test appeared almost immediately, a series of floating vines, moving unpredictably above a deep chasm. A small creature darted among them, its eyes glowing. Rylan studied the vines carefully, observing their patterns. He timed his movements and leapt with precision, landing safely on the opposite side. A small drone hovered nearby, recording everything. Salira watched from above, impressed. Most hunters would have tried to jump blindly, risking a fall. But Rylan calculated, adapted, and executed perfectly. She muttered under her breath, a hunter like that deserves respect. The next challenge was a predator field, a zone filled with creatures trained to attack intruders. Rylan observed carefully, noting their behavior. He did not attack immediately. Instead, he created subtle distractions, using light reflections and sounds to guide the predators away from his path. One small misstep, and he could have been torn apart, but he moved with care, adapting to each movement. Hours passed. Rylan faced more hazards. Collapsing platforms, aggressive plants that lashed out with sharp vines, and sudden storms that changed the arena's conditions. Each time, he relied on intelligence, observation, and patience. He avoided unnecessary conflict, focusing on survival and understanding. Finally, he reached the final stage, a platform high above the clouds, home to the apex predator of the arena. The creature was massive, covered in chitinous plates, with multiple eyes that glowed like fire. It moved with terrifying speed, attacking anything that entered its domain. Rylan did not panic. He studied the predator's patterns, using his experience to predict its attacks. He set small traps, not to harm it, but to guide it safely, creating openings in its defense. With careful timing, he moved across the platform, leaping from rock to rock. The predator lunged, missed, and followed his path just as he planned. Salira's voice came from above, calm and approving. Excellent, she said. You understand. The hunt is not just about killing. It is about intelligence, patience, and respect. Finally, Rylan reached the center of the platform. The apex predator circled him, snarling, but he stood his ground. Slowly, he raised a hand, not as a threat, but as a gesture of understanding. The creature paused, sniffed the air, and backed away slightly. Rylan did not attack. He had shown respect, patience, and strategy. The predator acknowledged him in its way, and he had survived the trial. Celira descended from the clouds, landing gracefully beside him. "You have passed," she said simply. Her peers, observing from above, murmured in astonishment. "Never have I seen a human demonstrate such skill, such understanding." Rylan nodded, sweat on his brow, heart still racing. "It is not strength alone," he said. "It is patience, observation, and respect. That is how a hunter survives, and how life is understood." Celira studied him carefully. "Your people are stronger than we believed, not just in body, but in mind. You earn my respect, Captain Rylan Jace." "Truly," the human smiled faintly. "Thank you," he said simply. "I do not hunt for praise. I hunt to survive and to learn." For the first time, Celira considered that humans were not primitive, reckless, or weak. They were clever, resilient, and ethical in ways her species rarely expected. She had been sent to observe the shadow scale, but she had discovered something more important. A human who could teach lessons of courage, intelligence, and respect. As the sun set over the floating mountains, Rylan and Celira stood together, watching the sky turn shades of orange and purple. The trial was over, but the jungle and the universe still held challenges. They had survived the first test, but greater trials awaited, where human ingenuity and courage would face even deadlier threats. And high above, among the clouds and jungle canopy, Celira whispered once more, almost to herself, "A hunter like that deserves respect." The admiration of one elite alien huntress was small. Yet it meant the beginning of something greater. Recognition that humans, with their adaptability, courage, and intellect, could survive and even thrive where others feared to tread. Rylan knew the journey was just beginning. Zythera had more to teach him, more challenges to test his skills. But he welcomed them. He was a human. He survived. And in a universe full of danger and mystery, that was the greatest strength of all. The night on Zythera was alive with strange sounds. The dense jungle pulsed with glowing plants, rustling leaves, and distant calls of unseen creatures. Captain Rylan Jace moved carefully through the undergrowth, following a trail he had marked during the day. His mind was sharp, focused on survival, observation, and strategy. The shadow scale he had been tracking was still near, though it had grown more cautious. The jungle seemed to shift around him, as if aware of his presence. High above, hidden in the trees, Celira watched. She had returned to observe him again, but this time, her interest had deepened. The human's patience, intelligence, and courage impressed her beyond measure. He moved like a part of the jungle, blending into his environment while fully aware of every detail. She had been trained to hunt and dominate, yet she found herself learning from him. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the ground. Rylan paused, scanning the area. The air grew heavy, and a strange scent reached him, metallic and primal. Then he saw it. A massive apex predator, larger than anything he had faced in the trial arena, charging through the jungle with terrifying speed. Its scales glimmered like dark metal, its many eyes glowing red in the dim light. It had been genetically engineered for strength and cunning, and it was clearly hunting him. Rylan did not panic. He ducked behind a massive tree trunk and studied its movements. This creature was fast, intelligent, and dangerous. He would have to combine all his skills, strategy, observation, and quick thinking to survive. He set a small series of devices around him, not as weapons, but as traps to guide the predator's movement. The jungle became a chessboard, And Rylan was calculating every move. Celira leapt from her hiding spot, landing silently nearby. She studied the predator, then glanced at Rylan. "It is dangerous," she said calmly. "Even the Vyari struggle with it alone." Rylan nodded, focusing on the creature. "Then we must work together," he said. "Alone, neither of us can survive this." Celira tilted her head. Cooperation between species was rare, especially with humans, who were considered weak by most alien cultures. Yet here, in the face of danger, it made sense. She followed his lead, moving silently and watching the predator's behavior. The predator lunged suddenly, smashing through a wall of thick vines. Rylan rolled to the side, using the momentum to set off one of his traps, a subtle energy pulse that diverted the creature toward a narrow path. It roared, frustrated by the redirection, but continued its pursuit. Celira moved with lightning speed, cutting off another escape route with precision strikes of her own. Together, human and alien began a dance of strategy and survival. Every step, every decision was critical. The predator tested them, but neither faltered. Hours passed. They led the predator through traps, natural hazards, and clever diversions, exhausting the creature while conserving their own energy. Rylan observed its behavior, noting patterns in its hunting methods. He whispered instructions to Celira, who followed with perfect timing. The two were learning each other's strengths and weaknesses, forming an unspoken bond through trust and mutual respect. At one point, the predator cornered Celira on a narrow bridge of rock suspended over a deep chasm. Its eyes glowed red, and its claws scraped the stone. Rylan acted instantly. He leapt from the side, setting off a device that released a burst of light and sound. The predator hesitated, giving Celira a chance to leap to safety. She landed gracefully beside him, breathing heavily but unharmed. "You are different," she said, admiration in her voice. "Most humans would have panicked. You think, you act, and you save others." Rylan gave a small smile. "That is the human way. We survive together, not alone." The predator roared in frustration and lunged again. Rylan and Celira had led it to the final stage, a rocky plateau with uneven surfaces and jagged cliffs. It was the perfect location to use their combined skills. Rylan set a series of traps, carefully calculating the timing and placement, while Celira prepared a series of attacks to guide the predator. The predator lunged one final time. Rylan dodged, then triggered a trap that emitted a powerful light and sonic pulse. The predator staggered, momentarily disoriented. Celira moved swiftly, striking precise points on the creature's limbs to redirect it. The predator roared, confused and exhausted, but still alive. Rylan spoke calmly. "We are not your enemies," he said, taking a careful step forward. "We respect your strength. We only want to survive." He lowered his weapon slightly. Showing no aggression, the predator paused, sensing the calmness and respect in Rylan's movements. Slowly, it backed away, circling once, then disappeared into the jungle. Rylan exhaled deeply, lowering his weapons completely. Celira watched him with awe. "You," she said softly, shaking her head, "you have done what most of us could not. You are more than a hunter. You are remarkable." Rylan shrugged. "I only do what is necessary. And I respect life, even predators." Celira stepped closer, her eyes studying him carefully. "Your people are stronger than we believed. Not just in body, but in mind. You teach lessons of courage, patience, and understanding that few species can match." Rylan looked at her, curious. "Then you see humans differently now?" "Comfor." Celira nodded slowly. "Yes. You are not weak. You are adaptable, clever, and ethical. Even in danger, you act with thought and respect. That is rare. That is admirable." For the first time, A genuine smile crossed Celira's face. She had been trained to dominate and conquer, yet here, facing a challenge beyond what her species could easily overcome, she had learned from a human. Trust and respect had formed between them. Born from cooperation, courage, and intelligence. The jungle grew quieter as night approached. The glowing plants reflected in small streams, and the bioluminescent insects lit their path. Rylan and Celira moved cautiously through the undergrowth, knowing the apex predator was still somewhere nearby. Though exhausted, they kept watch over each other, silently acknowledging their bond. As they navigated the jungle, they discovered signs of other creatures, some harmless, some dangerous. Rylan paused to record observations, noting interactions, tracks, and behavior. Celira observed his technique. "You do not just survive," she said quietly. "You learn, you understand. That is why you are alive, why you are still standing." Rylan smiled faintly. "That is the way humans survive. We adapt, we observe, and we respect life, even when it is dangerous." Hours passed, and they found a safe place to rest for the night, a cave high above a stream, protected from the jungle predators. Rylan set small, silent alarms around the perimeter, ensuring their safety while they slept lightly. Celira sat nearby, watching him, still in awe of his ability to survive, lead, and strategize. "You are different from anyone I have known," she said softly. "Most hunters see only the hunt. You see the life, the patterns, the lessons. That is why you are strong." Rylan nodded. "Strength is not always about power. It is about courage, intelligence, patience, and respect. That is how a hunter survives, and how humans thrive." Celira looked out over the jungle, the glowing plants reflecting in her eyes. "Perhaps we have underestimated your species," she admitted. "Perhaps humans are capable of more than we imagined. Our levances, our levances, our levances, our levances." Rylan gave a small smile, adjusting his equipment for the night. "We always have been," he said. "We survive, we learn, and we adapt. That is our strength." The night passed quietly, with the distant sounds of the jungle surrounding them. Neither spoke much, yet an unspoken understanding had formed. They had faced danger together, survived, and learned from each other. Their bond was more than necessity, it was respect, admiration, and the beginnings of trust across species. Morning came, and the jungle's light filtered through the trees once again. Rylan stood, stretching slightly, ready to continue the hunt. The shadow scale was still nearby, elusive and clever. But now, he had an ally in Celira, whose respect and skills could help him survive the deadliest threats the jungle could present. "You have proven yourself," Celira said, stepping beside him. "Not just to me, but to anyone who doubts humans. You are extraordinary." Rylan nodded. "We survive together, and we respect life. That is all any hunter can do." Celira's eyes softened. "A hunter like that deserves respect," she repeated, louder this time, ensuring that her words would carry to any who listened. The admiration was no longer quiet, it was a declaration. Humans, through courage, intelligence, and ethics, had earned recognition even among the galaxy's most skilled hunters. And so, on the dangerous world of Zythera, a human and an alien huntress formed a bond through cooperation, trust, and mutual respect. They had survived together, proving that life could be understood, danger could be overcome, and strength could come in many forms, not just physical, but moral and intellectual. The jungle around them was alive with possibility. The shadow scale remained elusive, predators still roamed, and the dangers of the floating mountains awaited. Yet Rylan and Celira had faced what seemed impossible and survived. They had learned from each other and forged a bond that transcended species, a bond of respect, courage, and intelligence. The next challenges awaited. But they would face them together. The apex predator had tested them, and they had endured. The universe was full of danger, but also full of opportunity, and Captain Rylan Jace, human and hunter, had proven that, even in worlds of peril, humanity's courage, intellect, and adaptability could shine brighter than any star. The sky over Zythera shimmered in green and gold as dawn broke, painting the jungle canopy with a strange, ethereal light. Captain Rylan Jace stood on a rocky outcrop, observing the jungle below. The shadow scale had vanished once more, leaving only faint traces of movement. But today, the danger that approached was unlike anything the planet had ever seen. A massive asteroid, kilometers across, hurtled through space toward Zythera. Its path was unchangeable without intervention, and its impact threatened to destroy the jungles, creatures, and possibly the surrounding colonies humans had built in nearby systems. Sensors aboard Rylan's ship had detected it hours ago. The asteroid was too large to destroy easily, and too fast to avoid naturally. Only a clever combination of strategy, technology, and courage could save the planet. Celira joined him on the outcrop, her sleek figure moving gracefully despite the urgency. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the horizon. "The humans cannot handle this alone," she said softly. "But you," she glanced at Rylan. "You may have a chance." Rylan nodded, his mind racing through calculations and possibilities. "We will need every resource," he said. "Alien technology, human ingenuity, and careful planning. If we work together, we can redirect it." Celira studied him closely. She had seen humans in danger before, but none had acted like Rylan. He did not panic. He did not rush blindly. He adapted, thought ahead, and planned. That was why she had grown to respect him. That was why she had agreed to help. They gathered a team quickly: human engineers, scientists, and a group of elite Vayari hunters. The plan was simple in principle but impossible in execution. Using a combination of energy pulses, gravitational manipulation devices, and careful calculation, they would attempt to nudge the asteroid just enough to avoid collision. Failure meant death or worse, the destruction of Zythera. Rylan and Celira moved through the floating mountains to the central platform, where the devices were positioned. Giant towers of alien tech hummed with energy, responding to Celira's precise commands. Rylan checked the devices, adjusting calibration, calculating trajectory, and ensuring that every measurement was perfect. Even the slightest miscalculation could doom the planet. "Are you ready?" Celira asked, her voice calm but tense. Rylan nodded. "As ready as we can be. Let's do this." The asteroid grew larger in the sky, a glowing mass of rock and metal. Its sheer size made the team tense. But Rylan stayed focused. He activated the first series of devices, sending controlled energy pulses toward the asteroid. The Vayari hunters assisted, stabilizing the floating platforms and ensuring precise alignment. Celira coordinated with both humans and Vayari, her commands blending seamlessly with Rylan's strategy. The asteroid shifted slightly, its course beginning to change but not enough. Another adjustment was needed. Rylan calculated the timing, velocity, and angle. He realized that human ingenuity combined with alien technology was their only hope. "Trust me," he said to Celira. "We can do this together." She nodded. "I trust you. Show me the way." With precise coordination, Rylan and Celira activated the final sequence. Energy beams struck the asteroid at calculated points. Gravitational fields pulled it slightly off course, and the combined forces nudged the massive rock away from its destructive path. The asteroid shuddered, glowed, and shifted. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, its trajectory altered enough to miss Zythera entirely. The team held their breath. Then, as the asteroid passed safely, a collective sigh of relief swept through the group. Humans and Vayari alike looked at Rylan, astonished and inspired. He had led them, combining intelligence, courage, and patience to save an entire world. Celira approached him, a rare smile on her face. "You have done more than survive," she said. "You have led. You have saved life. You have shown what humanity can do." Rylan shook his head slightly. "I did not do this alone. We worked together. The humans, the Vyari, the jungle itself, all of it contributed. The key is to respect life and think clearly under pressure. That is what allows us to survive and thrive." Celira's eyes shone with admiration. "Your species has potential beyond what we imagined. Your courage, intelligence, and moral strength are extraordinary. Today, you did what no one else could." The Vyari observers, who had been skeptical of humans before, now nodded in agreement. Rylan had not just survived a dangerous planet. He had saved it. He had shown that humans, with their adaptability, patience, and intelligence, could stand alongside even the most skilled alien hunters. As the team celebrated quietly, Rylan took a moment to observe the jungle below. The shadow scale moved unseen, gliding through the trees as it had for centuries. Rylan smiled. Respecting life, even creatures that could kill him, had helped him understand the jungle, and it had helped him survive today. Celira watched him, her admiration deepening. "A hunter like that deserves respect," she said aloud, so that all could hear. This time, it was not whispered, it was a statement, a declaration to anyone present. Humans, she made clear, were not weak or primitive. They were clever, brave, and capable of greatness. Rylan looked at her, the bond between them stronger than ever. "Thank you," he said simply. "But respect is earned by observing, learning, and surviving together. We all contributed." Celira nodded. "Still, you are extraordinary. You are more than a hunter. You are a leader, a teacher, and an example of what humans can achieve." News of the asteroid's diversion spread quickly across human and Vyari settlements. Rylan's actions became legendary, a story of courage, intelligence, and collaboration. The Vyari reconsidered their views of humans, realizing that this species, often underestimated, could achieve feats beyond imagination. Months later, Celira visited Rylan's base on a human space station. The station was modest, but alive, with human activity, engineers, scientists, and explorers all working together to push boundaries. Celira observed quietly as humans moved, interacted, and solved problems with ingenuity and determination. "You were right," she said to Rylan. "Humans are capable of more than I imagined. Your courage, patience, and intelligence, they shine brighter than any weapon or skill." Rylan smiled. "We survive by thinking, by adapting, and by respecting life. That is our strength. You have seen it firsthand." Celira nodded. "And now, so has everyone else. Today, you are not just a hunter, Rylan Jace. You are a symbol of what humans can achieve, a reminder that intelligence, courage, and respect are more powerful than fear or strength alone." The shadow scale moved in the distance, visible only briefly, before disappearing again into the jungle. Rylan watched it, understanding that true hunters respected the wild, not only for conquest, but for knowledge and coexistence. Celira stepped closer. "The Vyari will remember this day. Your actions have changed our view of your people forever. Humans are not just survivors. They are leaders, thinkers, and heroes." Rylan nodded humbly. "I only do what is necessary. Others will carry the lessons forward. Courage, intelligence, and respect. That is what keeps life alive. Even in the deadliest places, the bond between human and alien Huntress had grown strong through trials, cooperation, and mutual respect. They had faced dangers that would have killed most species, yet survived through strategy, courage, and understanding. The universe had witnessed a lesson in HFY. Humanity's strength was not just in technology or weaponry. but in intellect, morality, and adaptability. Salira looked at the horizon, the green and gold light of Zythera reflecting in her eyes. "A hunter like that deserves respect," she said once more, this time as a promise. Not just an observation. Humans had earned recognition across species. They had proven that courage, intelligence, and ethics could overcome any challenge. Rylan looked at her, and then back to the jungle. "And this is only the beginning," he said quietly. "The universe is full of danger, but it is also full of opportunity. Humans will survive, adapt, and thrive. That is who we are." High above, in the canopy and skies of Zythera, creatures stirred and called to each other. The jungle had survived, the asteroid had passed, and a human had shown the galaxy what true courage and intelligence could achieve. Rylan Jace had not just hunted, he had led, taught, and inspired. Salira placed a hand on his shoulder, a silent gesture of respect and trust. "Together, we will face whatever comes next," she said, "and humanity will prove itself again and again." Rylan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility and the thrill of possibility. He was a human, a hunter, and a survivor. And through courage, intelligence, and respect, he would continue to lead, explore, and inspire not just on Zythera, but across the stars. The universe awaited, full of mystery and challenge. And humanity, with its adaptability, courage, and intellect, was ready. The legacy of a hunter who earned respect had begun, and it would echo across worlds and species for generations to come.